Congress is back to work in Washington right now, where whether they like it or not, and for a lot of Republicans who support Donald Trump, the answer is not. At the White House today, the president of Poland had the misfortune to visit in the middle of Hurricane Epstein. As you probably know, Republicans forced an early recess over the summer to avoid having to vote on whether to release the Epstein files, which many of them do not want to do because it would upset Orange Julius Caesar.
Fortunately, Trump sat back down and patiently waited for his car to arrive at the White House. Just kidding. Of course, that's not what he did.
Mr. Trump then used his free hand to lunge towards Bobby Engel. And when Mr. Renato had recounted this story to me, he had motioned towards his clavicles.
That is no way to treat a Secret Service.
Trump's administration is a gift that continuously degrades itself. Chelsea Handler and Jimmy Kimmel alternately tear through it like a cheap curtain in Vegas. He approaches every situation as if it were an open mic night, convinced that he was the reason the spotlight was created. They take advantage of his frequent tantrums when he doesn't get it, his desperate need for praise, and his tendency to treat every news conference like a reality show audition that ought to have been canceled before it even aired.
And this morning at 7:46 a.m., our president, who is staunchly pro-concussion, he loves his CTEs, weighed in on the games on Sunday. You know, he sat up in bed and posted, "The NFL has to get rid of that ridiculous-looking new kickoff rule. How can they make such a big and sweeping change so easily?"
So Elon called me. As you know, he endorsed me full-throated. Great endorsement. I respect Elon a lot. He respects me. And not easy for him to endorse, to be honest with you. You know, it takes courage.
It's going to take a lot of courage when you're in prison doing some full-throating of your own, sister. Love it.
First to be discredited are his economic boasts. Like a magician brandishing cards, he showcases numbers. Behind the facade, however, are families who have been devastated by skyrocketing expenses and jobs that are going out of style more quickly than interns during his presidency. Kimmel makes fun of him for acting as though he has no debt. However, Handler compares his financial planning to someone who uses a casino credit card to the limit and refers to it as a long-term investment strategy.
They kicked the can in the hopes that, I don't know, we'd be hit by a tidal wave or something, it would wash away, but it didn't wash away. So they tried another dumb idea. Again, this time the House Oversight Committee released some of the Epstein files, around 33,000 pages of the Epstein files, the vast majority of which had already been released. You would think that of all the cases, the one for Jeffrey Epstein would get a full release, but no.
Foreign policy is not exempt from criticism. Trump has the poise of a man attempting to barge into a wedding for the buffet when it comes to international relations. He confuses intimidation with leadership by blustering his way into rooms rather than engaging in dialogue. While Handler mocks how allies view him as the guest who no one wants but everyone must put up with, Kimmel pokes fun at his chest-thumping bluster. His supervision of summits is more about watching Trump stumble through discussions like a high school student bluffing an oral exam than it is about diplomacy.
Is hanging this in a museum. Their other proof he didn't do it is the signature. They say it doesn't look like his signature. It sure does to me. Especially when you compare it to other Trump signatures from that era. They're almost exactly the same. They all end with a long D, which I can only assume is Trump overcompensating for a small D.
Immigration laws turn into yet another hilarious carnage. Trump seems like a contractor on a bad HGTV parody because of his concern with walls. Handler, who believes that cement is the answer to all problems, emphasizes the ridiculousness of treating people like data in a construction project. Kimmel jokes that his wall aspirations are more about wanting to leave something behind, anything that won't fall apart before his term is up, than they are about security.
Sadly, there is no footage of Trump grabbing the wheel, but I imagine it would look something like this. Hutchinson also relayed details of what happened when Trump's Attorney General Bill Barr told him there was no evidence of election fraud.
The valet had articulated that the president was extremely angry at the Attorney General's AP interview and had thrown his lunch against the wall.
Trump turns into a caricature of himself when the subject of women comes up. He makes an effort to be flattering and misogynistic, but the act is less convincing than the spray tan he has on his face. Handler breaks down his shallow admiration for women by showing out that there are always conditions attached. Kimmel, however, reminds the audience that his record of decency is as real as a $3 bill. They draw attention to the fact that his purported support of women is really merely a ruse to maintain his prominence.
Is at least as dangerous as the normal kickoff, and looks like hell. Sissy football is bad for America and bad for the NFL. Says the guy who wakes up in the morning and sprays his head with Aquanet. Truth be told, loudly complaining about the NFL is what a man his age should be doing right now. Maybe he'll send in the national...
Trump's fixation with ratings and crowd sizes turns into another punching bag. Kimmel compares him to a musician who blew up on stage but insisted that the audience was still roaring, and he quips that he counts Instagram likes like a teenager when measuring his presidency. They joyously turn his need for validation into an everlasting source of ridicule because it is so evident that it could be diagnosed. Trump's healthcare policy also turns into a darkly humorous tale. Millions of people are left trapped in the same dysfunctional system when promises of amazing plans never come to pass. Kimmel, who as Handler exposes the ridiculousness of leaving hope hanging without action, while first-hand experience fighting for affordable healthcare ruthlessly dissects the feeble proposals. Like cotton candy left out in the rain, his lofty ideals vanish as they come into contact with reality.
Now, there was some new information in the documents. Contrary to what Trump's Attorney General Pam Bondi said, there was video of that missing minute of security footage shot outside Epstein's cell. That footage somehow this footage got re-edited more times than the Zack Snyder Justice League cut. And it's a big problem for Trump because the push to release the names isn't just coming from the left. This is a bipartisan effort. It's coming from inside.
Nor is the environment spared. Trump's refusal to acknowledge climate change is. He sounds like a man who denies that the sun rises every day. Kimmel makes fun of the way he treats scientists like partygoers and depicts him using duct tape to seal leaks on a sinking ship. His climate legacy reads less like a strategy for preserving the world and more like a manual for hastening catastrophe. His pandemic response then essentially erupts on its own. Kimmel mocks the rambling briefings that the public was given, perplexed, while Handler compares his approach to the problem to a man using a garden hose to attempt to extinguish a forest fire. Adding gasoline to the comedic fire is the staff turnover. Trump makes rash hiring decisions and fires employees as soon as they show signs of disloyalty.
Subject, TikTok. His Treasury Secretary announced that they have a framework of a deal to sell TikTok to an American company. Last year, Congress voted to ban TikTok unless the Chinese company that owns it sold it to a U.S. company. This deal is very important to President Trump because TikTok is his son Don Jr.'s only friend. But Trump loves TikTok. He thinks it helped him get elected.
Kimmel jokes that his government appears to be a chaotic reality show's cast list. However, Handler notes that no workplace could possibly function with such turnover. The instability turns into a joke in and of itself, an endless procession of mayhem masquerading as leadership. His infatuation with loyalty offers yet another hilarious gem. Like a medieval ruler, Trump wants allegiance, but provides nothing in exchange. Handler makes fun of how his idea of loyalty amounts to uncritical acclaim. However, Kimmel points out that anyone who dared to express independence was immediately labeled an enemy. It has little to do with government and more about feeding an ego that is too weak to take criticism. His style choices are also ridiculed, while Handler chuckles at the enormous suits that hang off him like second-hand costumes. Kimmel draws attention to the never-ending parade of red ties that are so long they resemble emergency.
Vote on this. Here's where we stand right now. The majority of Republicans, including this human ottoman, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, do not want to release the files. They say it would be dangerously irresponsible to do that. The people who are trying to eliminate the measles vaccine believe it would be dangerously irresponsible to release these files. But a handful of Republicans are siding with Democrats to force it. They want to see it all. They want to know who Jeffrey Epstein's friends are, which I have to say, I know who one of them is. He looks like this. The guy, that husky one in the pink tie on the... Yeah.
Another hot topic is Trump's relationship with the media. He snaps. The tact of a man batting bees at reporters, disregarding the fact that their responsibility is to hold him accountable. Kimmel emphasizes how his outbursts make Trump appear less like a commander-in-chief and more like a late-night caller to a talk radio show, while Handler makes fun of his paranoia. One of their favorite targets continues to be social media. Trump lashes out at all hours on Twitter, using it as a weapon. The incoherence and errors are ridiculed by Kimmel, while Handler explains his writings that appear to be the irate scrawls of an adolescent who has been banned from video gaming. No leader in history has ever boiled down the presidency to so many unrestrained outbursts. Trump's racial connections offer yet another sobering but essential expose. Handler doesn't mince words, highlighting how his lack of empathy simply served to widen the gulf.
Well, it finally happened. Kamala Harris went nose to blowhole with Donald Trump. She was brilliant, she was prepared and well-informed, and he said stuff like this.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets.
The only dead pet I know about is the one on your head, and she mopped the f***ing floor with it.
Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison.
Why can't you just be happy you'll have somebody to date when you get to prison?
Kimmel emphasizes how insensitive his comments were during times of national suffering. He leaned on anger and terror rather than bringing the nation together, leaving wounds that comedy can only emphasize but never heal. The teasing continues because of his legal issues. Indictments, probes, and lawsuits follow him like parade confetti. Kimmel notes that Obama spent more time fighting legal woes than promoting proper policies, while Handler likens his judicial appearances to reruns that no one requested. The unending controversies turn into his presidency's true defining feature. Relief activities for disasters also serve as a source of mockery. While towns suffer, Trump treats his trips to devastated places like campaign stops, posing for pictures. While Handler emphasizes how little follow-through truly occurs once the cameras are removed, Kimmel mocks the picture sessions. Tragic events are merely another opportunity for him to get praise.